uh, we were discussing the ninth sutra of the second chapter, Swarasavahi Vidushoapi Tatha Rudo Abhinivesha. Tatha Rudo. The desire to cling to life, that is which is Abhinivesha, is inherent both in the ignorant and in the learned. Vidusho api. Vidusho api means even those who are learned, the so-called learned people also have this fear of death, or maybe they cling to life. It is not an unnatural thing. Everybody clings to life, living or non-living living beings, animals or plants. Nobody wants to die. So there is this survival instinct. Now, where does it come? So this is based on the theory of reincarnation, because the mind retains the impressions of the death experience from many previous incarnations. That is why Swarasavai, it flows by its own self. It is transmitted from one life to another. That implies, this sutra implies reincarnation. So doctrine of reincarnation is of course common to both Hinduism and Buddhism. And in the initial stages of Christianity, it was accepted because there are many quotes in the Bible, many sayings or parables or many teachings of in the Bible which point out to some sort of reincarnation, the idea of reincarnation. But anyway, it was rejected by later Christianity because they just wanted to believe in one life, after which there will be either heaven or hell. But they could not totally deny the fact that there is afterlife, whether it is in heaven or in the next birth. There is, they cannot, or no rational person can deny afterlife, or maybe some kind of existence after one dies. So we will now discuss this in the first chapter of the 17th verse. Prakriti has been described as the power of Brahman or reality. We will come back to the basics, how we can establish this idea of reincarnation based on this sutra. In other words, the illusion that we see of an object outside in the spatio-temporal universe, the universe that we see around us, is projected by the reality itself. Brahman, when it is inactive, becomes Shakti when it is active. That is what Sri Ramakrishna, that's what Prakriti is. Therefore, it follows that Prakriti and Brahman must be coexistent. So that is how Hindus explain this universe. That Prakriti, like Brahman, had no beginning and will have no end. Prakriti will continue to spin the web of a universe, the universe that we see. And just like a spider, in the Upanishads, that beautiful example is given, that the spider creates the web from within. It's not that he gets materials from outside and creates a web, but he creates the web from his own body and then lives on that and finally absorbs that web. He draws that web into himself to spin the web over and over again forever. So this Prakriti, eternal play of Prakriti is going on. In different incarnations, we come, we are born, we live, we die, then we are again absorbed back into the primal elements, and then again we. So what is that which gives us this continuity? Swarasa Vahi means continuous. Vidosho api abhinivesha. This clinging to life should have been inherited from our death experience. If you had no experience of death, then you would not fear death. If you have no experience of falling down, or if you have no experience of burning your finger in fire, then you will not be afraid of fire. The first time when you experience, then it becomes a memory. According to Patanjali, it becomes karmashaya. So one has to understand what the karmashaya is, what samskara is, what is the difference between samskara and karmashaya. These are to be understood very clearly. We will come to that discussion later. But first we'll take the general discussion forward, that Prakriti is not something, though it is one with the Brahman before creation, which creates and then again absorbs everything within. itself. So nothing is lost. There is something in potential form. It's not active. That's why we don't see the creation. It is when it is not active, as Sri Ramakrishna used to say, when the snake is coiled up, it is quiet. When it is active, when it moves, it becomes Shakti. Brahman and Shakti are like two sides of the same coin. So at the same time, within the universe, another process is going on. It is in the nature of the individual ego, asmita, to struggle slowly upward towards self-realization. This also you will see that as human beings evolve, the ego becomes less and less and less. Ego sense evolves. From a raw ego, it becomes a ripe ego. It evolves, it matures. And then it becomes from the inanimate to the animate first in the creation. If you see the theory of evolution, according to Darwin, it is the ego that changes. Man evolves from an amoeba to Buddha. From the vegetable, he evolves into animal, if we hold the Darwin's theory to be true. Even there, from animal to human through thousands and even millions of births and rebirths. That is what our scriptures also corroborate. They tell us that this is the only way you can explain why certain people are born with certain benefits or certain talents, where some others are not. So the Atman or the Brahman is within the stone, no less than within the man. But the stone can never know itself as the Atman so long as it remains a stone. So it's a question of manifestation. It must evolve through higher and higher forms, at least till it reaches humanity. For it is only within the human body, according to the scriptures, the human mind body, that the individual ego can know its real nature and can be liberated from the cycle of reincarnation. So throughout this wonderful journey towards total consciousness of Brahman, the individual is subject to a law which, according to the Hindu scriptures, also the Buddhist and Jain scriptures, is the law of karma. The law of karma, how does this law of karma work? His desires, the desires that a person has, and acts regulate the speed of his progress. Depending on your desires, your actions, they will regulate how fast you will evolve to a higher being. He builds or removes his obstacles to enlightenment. If there are these kleshas, they bind, they're pain-bearing obstructions. So the more you develop these kleshas, they bind you. And his present state, what he is, what a human being is today, is continually evolving, or maybe it is going down also. It is conditioned by the karmas of the past. If the karmas are good, it will evolve. If the karmas are bad, it will go down. But according to Swamiji, it will go down, but a day will come when it has to come up. There is no such thing as eternal damnation. Nobody will be damned for eternity. A day will come, no matter how much he goes down, he has to rise one day. So death does not interrupt this process of evolution or temporary, you can say, involution. He is not evolving. He maybe is doing some evil actions and he contracts. But if he has to expand again, he has to do some good work. So it is depending on the past karma, it goes on and on. So it is continually, the jiva is being continuously conditioned by the karmas of his past. That is where the karma ashaya comes. Ashaya means the receptacle where our karmas are stored. Now, what is the difference between the samskaras and the karmashaya? That we have to understand. Samskaras are tendencies, inherent tendencies. You have smoked a cigarette several times. So there is a tendency in you to smoke. As soon as you see a cigarette or as soon as you come to a cigarette shop, you feel like smoking. That is due to samskara. Then what is karmashaya? That is something which is latent. We'll find out the difference between karma. That is also a type of samskara, but they are not going to manifest now. They may be carried over to the next or successive births. They're not in a position to manifest right now. They're so deep rooted, they are fossilized. Our actions and our thoughts have been fossilized into karmashaya, the chitta, the main stuff, which will determine our jati, ayu, and bhoga, the next life, what species you will be born into, how long you will live, and what experiences you will have. That receptacle of karma is known as karmashaya. So, death will not interrupt the process of continuously evolving or going down, opposite of evolution, depending on the karmas of his past, the karmashayas, and also the actions of the present. So, even rebirth, when a person is reborn, that process goes on. The same process which guided him in the previous life is continued in this life also. So the individual is merely reborn with a new body, a mind, a character, and social surroundings. That is new, because the place or jati, ayu means life, and experiences, they will depend to a large extent how, where, in which surrounding he is born. So everything, the sum total of his karmic balance will decide his mind, the character that he will exhibit, the social surroundings that he will get, even that, according to the karma theory. That is why we have to be very careful with our actions and thoughts, because our company, the surroundings, the social surroundings where we will be born, will depend to a large extent on our present actions. May not be immediately, we may not be suddenly be born in a place which is not conducive to evolution, but over a period of time, as the karmashaya becomes firmer and stronger, there is a chance that the person will be born in circumstances which may be very difficult for him to counteract. He may be born with a strong body and a strong mind, but the circumstances will uh, the circumstances which are trying to push him down, or that will be so strong that in spite of a strong body and mind, he will find it difficult. So how that is determined is because of the karmic balance. The karmashaya will determine everything. The jati, the species into which you are born, how long you will live to work out that karma, how many chances you will get in this life. That is why they say it is so rare to get a human life. So don't waste it. Make full use of it. Every moment is valuable. So, because the whole structure of rebirth will depend on your karma share. So, the doctrine of reincarnation, as we see, is very unpalatable to many people, because it makes each one of us directly responsible for our present condition. You see, we don't think that we normally would like to push the blame on somebody else. Oh, I am there, I have failed in the exam because these were the circumstances. Everybody has a tendency to shift the blame on somebody else. That is a very easy way out. Nobody says I am responsible. If you get good marks, of course you will say, the children will say, oh, it is because I studied hard. You will take all the credit for yourself. But when something happens, then we will blame the surroundings, we'll blame the parents, we'll blame the teachers, we'll blame everything else other than ourselves. But the doctrine of reincarnation, Swamiji says here, Patanjali says, is not very much liked by many cultures, because then everything is directly, because man himself will be, every individual will be himself responsible for his present condition. You can't shift the blame on others if you firmly believe. Though Hindus believe in reincarnation, they believe in this idea of reincarnation, and they believe that they are the makers of their own destiny. Still, when it comes to complaining, giving excuses for their failures, they will very conveniently forget this idea. So we all, in general, every human being dislikes having to face this responsibility. And some of us even prefer to blame God for that. Then they become atheists. or the parents or the existing political system for making us what we are. Said we were denied this opportunity, that is why we are like this. Otherwise, we would have been good persons, good men. So if we deny reincarnation and claim that this birth is our first and the last, then we are in fact disclaiming. We are not taking the responsibility for our own condition. We are trying to shift it on somebody else. Then since then logically it follows that this condition must have been ordained by God. So that is what people do when they don't believe in the concept of reincarnation. They don't want to take the blame upon themselves. They'll say it has been ordained by God, or they will, if they are scientists, if they are they belong to any Semitic religion which firmly believes that it is the will of God that has ordained all these things, good or bad, they justify everything in the name of God. So because they don't want to take the responsibility. Hinduism is more practical, more pragmatic. They know, Hinduism knew, the rishis knew that if the responsibility of one's own action is not taken by the individual, then there will be no accountability. He will not be accountable for anything. He will just go on doing whatever his whims and fancies tell him to do. That is a very dangerous situation. So if we, or if they are scientists, if they are belonging to some dogmatic or Semitic or some other religion, they'll say it is the will of God, or it is the curse of God, or it's the blessing of God. They'll use such terms, but they will not take the responsibility on themselves. They'll not say it is because of my past karma that all this suffering has to be undergone by me and by others. So uh, then there is another category which says that uh, it may be heredity or environment that is responsible. Okay, it's not God. We do not want to involve God in all these things, but it is our heredity. It's our natural uh, problem which human beings face. Human beings, because of their heredity and environment, this is the argument given by atheists and modern so-called scientific people. They say, okay, it is just hereditary. These people who are uh, born in different countries, in underprivileged countries, you can't blame them because their environment and their hereditary has made them what they are. So you should be very sympathetic to all these things. So that is how the responsibility is shifted. In many cases, this is done. So if you have to be born physically or economically underprivileged, as it happens in many of the countries, you are simply born in an economically or a physically underprivileged condition. We are underprivileged in that sense, and then we have a permanent way of grievance where we will say we are cursing our fate. It's because of our fate that we are born here, and then that will be a permanent excuse for all our weaknesses and failures. We'll never strive to overcome that. So there is a need for a very strong philosophy which does not allow us to sink down to becoming fatalists, thinking that it is fate, it is environment. So Hinduism is a very positive religion. Vedanta is a very positive religion. Patanjali's yoga is very positive when it says you take the whole responsibility on yourself. Please don't shift the responsibility. It's your own karma, your own karmashaya, which has been responsible for your behavior, for what you are doing now and what you will be doing in the future. So take care. See that your present actions are modified in such a way, actions and thoughts are controlled in such a way that they don't lead to some kind of uh, trouble it doesn't lead to some kind of trouble in the future, either in this birth or the next birth. So this doctrine of reincarnation, which at first seems to be so grim and heartless. So if everything is according to karma, then I cannot overcome it. Actually, it that is not true. It implies within this theory a profoundly optimistic belief in the justice and order of the universe. Universe is based on certain principles. Just as in science, when you mix two chemicals, you know what is the result because it has been scientifically observed, proved, experimented, and proof has been given. So you don't expect anything contrary to what has been taught. So that's why science has earned so much respect because it bases its theories and proofs on uh, experiments, experiments which prove that this theory is correct or this hypothesis is correct. So there is some justice and order of the universe. That is why when Newton formulated, said this universe is like a clock. It runs like a smooth machine. There's no error in that, like a smoothly functioning clock. It's a clockwork mechanism. You made the mechanism, it will go on showing the time. So this whole justice and order that we see in the universe is a characteristic of this nature. So it is we and not God or our parents or our fellow men who have made our present predicament, whatever conditions. Science is at least honest, much better than fatalists who try to shift the blame on others. They are weak people, but scientists, if they are really sincere, they say, okay, we are responsible because they follow logic. They say that if there is an effect, there is a cause. So scientists will find it very easy. Those who are wedded, they are true scientists who are wedded to truth. They will find it very easy to accept this theory of reincarnations because our present position or present predicament, we ourselves are responsible. Science says, why don't you take the whole responsibility? There cannot be any effect without any cause. So the cause must be within. Don't search for a cause outside. There may be, apparently there are some causes outside, but even they have been uh, guided or they have been, uh, they are coming into effect because of some cause which is within. So you can't shy away from that responsibility. That is the idea. But it gives us tremendous faith and a positive attitude because if we are responsible for our fate, then we can change it. We don't have to depend on God to change it for us. So we are not helplessly doomed. We can undo what we have done through our actions, through a better life, through positive actions, through good actions, through yoga and all those things. So sometimes the workings of the law of karma are quite apparent to us. In retrospect, at least, when we see there are certain things which happen to us now, we know that we did this. Some not all the laws of karma. There are many laws which act now. There are some laws which take time to fructify and act. So that is why it's a very complex thing. That's why in the Gita it is said that Gahana Karmano Gati. The way of karma is very difficult to understand what this law of karma is. But at least we know that the working of karma is taking place in our life. We see, we throw a matchstick. There are some karmas which act immediately. We set fire to something and then it burns. So there is a cause and there is an effect. So we see many things, but there are certain things we can see looking back into over our lives, how a certain tendency in our character which we had neglected or which we had cultivated has produced the same situation over and over again and under diverse circumstances. For example, the right from childhood, if we have some kind of fear of darkness, that continues. It continues even when you grow up. In the beginning, you fear some unknown thing, and when you grow up, you fear your enemies, you fear the situation changes. The situation or but the quality of fear that remains the same. So circumstances may change, but you see the effect of karma, the effect of fear that you the fear samskaras that have been developed in your life. some of the effects you see immediately. But some effects you don't see in the same birth, that is known as karmashaya. The difference between samskara and karmashaya, samskaras are tendencies which you have gathered over a period of time, and they manifest whenever there is a suitable atmosphere or a suitable environment. When that happens, you say it is samskara, but karmashaya is something which does not fructify in this, may not fructify in this birth itself. It may be carried on to the next birth. So this should certainly make us suspect that karma also operates in those areas of experience which appear to us to be ruled by chance. So we can't say these are chance. Okay, now it looks like chance. Somebody got a lottery, somebody got tremendous wealth, he inherited tremendous wealth. But if we know that it is the law of karma which is operating always in all our situations, then we'll say, okay, he deserved. He might have worked hard for this money. The money has not fallen from the skies. Though it appears that he has had a windfall, a big, he has suddenly acquired certain things which people think he did not deserve. But that person would have done something good in the previous life to earn this. So we rule out that everything happens by chance. Seemingly it appears that they are ruled, our destinies are ruled by chance. So we tend to become fatalists, but it is not true. And indeed the science tries to find, so the scientific spirit, I should say, not just the physical sciences, but if we have a scientific spirit while analyzing religion or spirituality or yoga, then we'll find subtle threads of cause and effect. It may not be apparent immediately to all, but you will find that now and then you get a hint. And if you think deeply enough, if you meditate deeply enough, you understand that there are some threads which are linking the present effects have their cause somewhere, and that thread, that connection is established. For example, now we can take a few examples that psychologists very often say that what you call as accidental are not accidental at all, but some subconscious desire. Freud was one such exponent. He said, okay, what you find certain people doing certain actions all of a sudden, which he was a very good person, but suddenly you see that he behaves in a very abnormal way. So how do they explain? Freud says they are just subconscious desire, or maybe as some subconscious desire to avoid some unpleasant problem, even at the cost of breaking an arm or leg. So they will do certain things which they would not have done in normal circumstances, but it still, the behavior, the motive for that behavior can be traced to something which is deep rooted. The Freudian psychologists will say everything was there in the subconscious. He had a subconscious hatred for a particular community, and that came out. He may be living in peace with everybody, but subconsciously, right from childhood, perhaps he has been brainwashed, and there is a particular hatred for a particular community or a particular class of people who are with him. When he is normal, when everything is fine, he lives in harmony with all of them. But the moment there is some kind of disturbance, then he will behave in a totally different manner with the members of the other community and then the Freudians will say, yes, there was that deep rooted fear or hatred towards that particular community, though he kept it under control because society demanded it. Society demands that we live in harmony with each other. But during some special situations, people break these rules. They even break somebody's arm or leg or even kill people. Why do they do it? Because of, the psychologists would explain that it is there in the lymphic system. They say there are two autonomous nervous system, and there is a voluntary nervous system. Voluntary is something which you think and then act. Involuntary or autonomous nervous system, you depend on instinct. You simply react to an instinct or your old samskaras. So your reaction very often does not follow logic. Later on, you may regret, but you will say that, oh, I did it on the spur of the moment, something within me. I mean, it is the old samskaras. So whatever abnormal things a person does, which he would normally not do under different circumstances, they say that it is the deep-rooted subconscious. There are so many names given to that. There is the schizophrenia. There are so many hundreds of mental diseases where abnormal behavior by normal people, apparently they are normal as long as those things are not triggered in them. They'll suddenly resort to certain actions and you can't simply explain. You think he has been given the best kind of education, the best support, the best samskaras, but the hidden samskaras, the subconscious desires. But if they have not been, the logic here would be, if they have not been gathered in this life, then where did they come? If all the time Prahlada's father was telling him, don't worship Vishnu, don't worship Vishnu. He was an Asura, his father. So naturally he wanted his son to follow. If we believe in the theory of heredity, then he would have, if it is hereditary, then we would have thought that Prahlada would have followed the same, would have had the same characteristics as his father. But no, he was born with a devotional bent of mind, and no matter how much his father tried to uh, distract him from his basic inherent devotion to the Lord, he could not stop it. So we cannot say that we can say that it is the karmashaya, the past samskaras which were deep rooted in that person, they start manifesting. Maybe in this birth you don't see any evidence. In fact, in Prahlad's case, right from childhood, his father was trying to tell him that you are an asura, you have to behave like an asura, you have to use your force, energy, you have to fight the devas, you should not worship God, there is nobody greater than the asuras or his own father. He believed himself to be one of the strongest asuras. So he said, you worship me, why do you worship that Vishnu who is not seen? You cannot even see him. That Narayana who you think that he will save you. Let us see. If I try to kill you, will he save you? So then finally Vishnu had to come in the form of a Narsimha avatara, half man, half lion, and then he killed Hiranyakashipu, the father of Prahlada, and then liberated him. So the idea is that these things, they may appear, they may arise all of a sudden, but they are somewhere stored within, in the deep, in the consciousness, whether you call it subconscious mind, you call it the karmashaya, it is the same tendency that is manifest. So if we take the above aphorism, Swarasavahi Vidushopi Aruda, or what is that? The ninth sutra says that Swarasavahi Vidosho Api Tatharudo Abhinivesha. So even the wise people succumb. So what is the reason? Why does it happen? That is the only way it can be explained according to Patanjali, that we have experienced it not in this life, because this life we have not died unless we have tried to commit suicide, but we have definitely experienced death in several lives. So it just confirms the belief in reincarnation, that also by implication there is a proof to it, that how can we fear death so much if we never had previously experienced death. So Swamiji gives the example of hen and the eggs. As soon as the shells are broken, the ducklings go and start to swim. They just don't want to die. Even if they take to water and then they immediately start swimming. Who taught them to do this? Definitely not the mother hen. She No doubt she shouts wildly, and she also thinks that the children will be drowned. But we know how the ducklings immediately start flapping their wings and flapping their feathers and start swimming, and they have that swimming instinct highly developed even when they are just born. So by instinct also, similarly, we also fear death. We also do not want to die. Now, what is this instinct? This is to be understood. To understand the idea of karmashaya, we have to understand what is this instinct. We say, okay, it's very simple to say, oh, by instinct the duck swims. But where does the instinct come from? So, according to the dictionary meaning of instinct, if you see the instinct, see that is the problem when we swara savai and all those things. If you want to translate it into English, it becomes very difficult. There are certain Sanskrit words which are not translatable. They cannot be translated. So, according to the dictionary, instinct, what is instinct? It is an inborn pattern of activity, and response common to a given biological stock. Say for ducks, there is that inborn pattern of activity and response which is peculiar to the ducks. So they will swim no matter where the duck is, where the eggs are laid, where the eggs hatch. All the ducks will swim. They belong to a given biological stock. So instinct is an inborn pattern. It's not something which has to be acquired from outside. It is not a trained thing. The mother duck has not taught the young one, duckling, how to swim. As soon as it hatches, the ducks start spontaneously swimming. So according to yoga, this is known as involved reason. Reason which was involved in a subtle form. The experience of the past was brought and used. So by both definitions, whether you take the modern psychological theory or yoga, they agree that there is a memory of the experience, a memory which is either transmitted. The scientist will say, well, it might have come through hereditary. So your father's fear of death that has come to your genes, and you are also fearing death. In a way, many of the qualities they try to explain that if the father has certain characteristics, certain patterns of behavior, the child also, if the same pattern of behavior is there, then they say, okay, it has been inherited. But very often we see it doesn't happen that way. The father may be very wise, the child may be a stupid person. So how does hereditary explain this? So that memory of an experience, a previous experience, a memory which is definitely transmitted either through heredity or carried by an individual through a series of births. He is carrying his own burden. It is not, he doesn't require his father to give him that characteristic. He has been born with that. There are certain characters, certain biological characteristics he may inherit from his or her father. But very often you will see there are many things that are unique to the child which are not with the father. Jesus' father was just a carpenter, but Jesus did not become a carpenter. He became he became a prophet, he became a saint, because that was his real nature. That he was born in a carpenter's family, it's just maybe, of course, it is based on karma also, but at the same time, there is no connection, there is no biological hereditary stuff that has come from the father of Jesus to him. Certain characteristics, certain features, biological features, and the strength of the body and other things may have a resemblance that might come, but the higher qualities, the greater qualities, they come because of one's own karma share. So the hereditary person would say that why do you need reincarnation to explain? You just say your hereditary, it has come. But the yoga philosopher will disagree. He will say that it can't be mere hereditary. So it is something which in the duck, he has inherited the duck's attributes, including the knowledge of swimming, because the mother knows swimming. But you can't find, can you show that this happens in all the species? No, in some cases they have to be taught. For example, human beings. Human beings, the mother may be excellent swimmer, the father may be excellent swimmer, but that doesn't mean that a child will start swimming as soon as he is born. It doesn't happen in human beings. So he has to learn it. There are certain things which he has to learn. He has to acquire that skill. He has to acquire that efficiency. So the word is instinct doesn't help us. The instinct will never help us. It may be true in some cases, like the ducks taking to water. There are certain things. The birds learning to fly. They don't have to be taught. They automatically, as soon as they become a little mature, they'll start flying themselves. So that has been inherited. So, but the Yoga Sutra says the fear of death has come Swarasavai from innumerable births it has come. So that is why we say that this is the proof of reincarnation. Reincarnation can be, Patanjali will explain it later. So the instinctive theory, the theory that it is instinct, cannot be sustained. And Patanjali says the fear of death, which Patanjali himself says, fear of death which everybody feels, the wisest persons or the most ignorant of person, should it is necessarily dependent on some remembered past experience. Suppose, past experience of the previous births. To explain the previous births only this sutra is introduced, because if it is this birth, then we don't have any experience of death. So Patanjali's proof of reincarnation through memory of death experience can be justified if we consider this important passage from Vedanta. We know Patanjali supports this idea of reincarnation through this special memory of death experience of the past. It can be justified by considering this beautiful passage from Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. I'll just translate. I will not chant the English one. I'll just give the Sanskrit words, but I'll just translate a beautiful passage from the Brihadaranyaka. I will just go through it. The Brihadaranyaka Upanishad says there are two states of man. Now Upanishads are very direct. Patanjali is more scientific, more rational, but Upanishad very clearly says there are two states for a man. The state in this world and the state in the next world. Iha para means, Iha means this world. So whether it is in the present world or in the next world, these are the only two states in illusion. The next world means the life after death. So as soon as he is born, he is again keeps on changing his different states. But according to Upanishad, there are two states for man, for every human being, this world and the state in the next. But there is also a third state, an intermediate between these two, which can be likened to a dream. Now, deep sleep and waking, if these are two states, there is a dream state between where we are neither awake nor sleeping. So, when in the intermediate state, a man experiences both the other states, this world and the next. That in this world and that in the next, the manner how it is explained in this Upanishad is when he dies. Now, this Upanishad says, the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad gives a complete picture of what reincarnation is. When a man dies, how does he live in this world and the next world and the intermediate world? There are three worlds now, according to the Upanishad. So, in the intermediate world, he experiences both the states. The state in which this world in which he was alive, then there is the intermediate state, and then there is a world third state, which is next birth or next life after death. So when he dies, he lives only in the subtle body. Now this is being explained how what happens in the intermediate state. So when he dies, the Upanishad says, the person lives only in the subtle body, the gross body goes, on which this subtle body on which are left the impressions of his past deeds. So it's not just samskara. Samskara is that which enable you to manifest in this life. But suppose after death, what happens? Samskaras also many will go, but what will be, what will remain is the karma share. See, so these impressions, he says, he is aware. That person is aware of these impressions. That is why he says his memory, he does everything now based on the memory of the past. So they are illumined by the light of the Atman. Now, what gives them? How do we understand? How do we recognize those samskaras? It is the consciousness of the Atman, or the light of the Atman reveals it. The pure light of the Atman affords him light. Thus, it is that in the intermediate state, he experiences the first state, life of that world, in the intermediate dream state. That's why in dream we see so many things which we have lived, we have actually experienced. Now, again, when the intermediate state, he foresees both the evils and blessings that will come to him. So he gets an idea in that intermediate state that what will come to him, where will he be born. All these are determined or decided by his conduct, good or bad, upon the earth, and what the character which he has managed to keep. The conduct, his own conduct, his how he lived in this life will determine how he will be born in the next life. Thus, it is the intermediate state between death and the birth of the soul in another body that he experiences the second state of that of life in the world that will come. So he's not born, but he has died, he has given up his physical body, and the subtle body remains. And again, the evil and the good that he has done, the curses and the blessings that he has got, those things will be evaluated. There's a waiting period before which he is born again. So thus it is that intermediate state after death which he experiences and also gets a hint of the life in the world to come. That is what Patanjali says. See, it may not be, but in that intermediate state, after death, they may be hovering around. That is why we have to do Shraddha and other things we do, because we still feel that their minds are still there and we have to support them, make them happy. It's not that because they're not no more, we can afford to neglect them. The Swami Vivekananda also said this idea of Shraddha, remembering the ancestors, that gives a kind of peace, that gives some kind of a semblance of peace and joy to the departed spirits who are just in the intermediate state. They'll be very confused, they'll be hazy, they don't know how they will be born, where they will be born. So sometimes good memories, if it can be given to people after their death, though they may not be in a gross form, but they will definitely reciprocate, or they will get the benefit. That's why we have to pray for all the beings alive, or those who are in the spiritual form, in the spirit form, who are waiting to take birth. Everybody should be the object of our well wishes and prayers. So that is why we say Sahana Bhavatu, Sahana Bhunaktu, Sahaviryam Karava. Let us all eat together, let us enjoy together, let us pray for each other. So that let all beings be happy, let all beings be blissful. We are not just saying they are human beings, they can be other beings, they can be spirits who are living with a subtle body. Let them be peaceful, let them be happy. So that is the prayer we have to do. Let all beings in this world, animals included, be happy and peaceful. So that's the idea. If there are some questions, I will answer. Otherwise, we'll take leave now. Yeah, the question is, does one exhaust the effect of good karma in one's life? If so, what happens in our next life? That person has been a good person but consciously did not do good karma. No, it is not all exhausted. See, it is a very complex thing. It is not exhausted in one particular life. It many of the things, as we will see in the next class, we will discuss. The karmashaya itself means that what did not fructify in this life has been carried forward. It is like a balance. You withdraw a lot of money, deposit a lot of money, the bank balance is still there. But the bank balance continues to exist till you decide, till you are born again. All the samskaras, they won't go anywhere. Whatever you do, swalpamapyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. So whatever you do, even a little bit of spiritual, little bit of religion, saves you from great fear of death. Mahato bhayat, the greatest of fears. The greatest of fears is fear of death. There cannot be a greater fear than that. So he says this, in this intermediate state, uh, it's like a post-mortem interval. After dying, there is an interval when the individual, what he does is, he gets some opportunity, they say, according to the Upanishad, he takes stock of himself. He's compelled to review his past deeds. He gets a chance because till he is born, he's like doing some introspection. And together with the consequences, then he realizes, see, this birth I did so many bad things. Perhaps I'll be born as such and such person. And actually it may happen. So he knows that the he not only reviews his past, the wise man, I mean, and takes stock of himself. What are the likely samskaras that will be manifest? They must somehow in his next birth upon this earth or elsewhere, somewhere they have to be manifest. So that, I think, idea Upanishad says he gets in the intermediate period. So now whatever be the light of Atman, the light of Atman is shining on all the states, whether in this life, the intermediate life, and the next life. So for a majority of us this experience cannot be other than bitterly humiliating and painful, because we have a tendency to remember the bitter and humiliating and painful incidents which have happened. We don't easily forget them. Good incidents, nice incidents, smooth incidents, nothing much has happened, so we don't bother. But if there are very painful and humiliating incidents, somebody has insulted us, there are people who do not speak to each other for years together. They have so much of immaturity that they just, maybe the quarrel was a little small quarrel, but what is the use? That bitter sense of humiliation, that pain that one feels, if one cannot overcome, at least in this life or at least in the intermediate life, where you will be uh, more self-introspective, because you can't act now, the subtle body is there, so it can repent for its past actions. It can repent for all the things that they have done. So at least by the uh, to reduce the impact of those actions, to at least remember that cause and effect theory is a very scientific theory, and everybody which suffers a certain effect, one should trace the cause. So that is the idea. So I'll take leave now. If there is one more question, I'll answer. Otherwise, I'll take leave. So tomorrow I'll be going to Newcastle and returning only on Sunday. So our Janmashtami celebrations for all the devotees will be holding it on 18th. That is the day the Belur Mutt calendar says it is 18th. It happens to be a Thursday, 18th August. Uh, so we will resume this puja after a very long time. We had not done it during COVID, so we'll do it. So that will be on 18th August. Before that, of course, we will have classes. Tomorrow we don't have a class. I have a class in Newcastle. I'll be going tomorrow early morning tomorrow, and Saturday I will try to hold the class, which is the Gita class from Newcastle or Scotland. or Edinburgh. I'm not very sure where I'll be, but wherever I am, I'll be taking the class from there. That is the 5:45 class. Next time we don't have the uh, Vedanta and the Science of Human Resources. I'll have to check anyway. I'll inform on WhatsApp which class we'll be taking tomorrow. So I'll take leave. Om Sha. Those who are in Newcastle, they can see the, or near Newcastle, maybe just half an hour's drive. Those who live, if they get a chance, please do visit and attend the class. I'll be giving the details of the program and the address. It will be on Gita and Vedanta, an introduction to Gita and Vedanta. Then subsequently every month, on the last Friday of every month, there will be a regular class on Gita in Newcastle. So those who are staying around in Newcastle or around Newcastle nearby, they can attend the class. It is there. The venue also will be given in WhatsApp. I'll take your leave. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.